Crypto Nana, exit liquidity hold. Nana, dump it all. Crypto Nana, exit liquidity hold. Nana, dump it all.
Crypto Nana, exit liquidity.
Dump it all.
Hardo Nana, dump it all.
Nana, exit liquidity hold. Nana, dump it all. Crypto Nana, exit liquidity hold. Nana, dump it all.
From the day we arrive on the blockchain and blinking step into the trade, there's more to lose than can never be won, more to dump than can never be saved. Influencers, tweets, and the noobs all follow, buying high, selling low at a game. But the boomers know, and Sailor, he knows that the dump is coming. It's all the same. It's the circle of exit liquidity, and it moves us all through despair and hope, through faith and FOMO, till we find our place on the path unwinding in the circle of exit liquidity. Some of us fall by the wayside, and some of us soar to the stars. But the influencers always win with the Lambos and their cars. So beware of the pump and the inevitable dump, for the cycle continues and the news get wrecked.
Nana, exit liquidity hot. Nana, dump it all. Crypto Nana, exit liquidity hot. Nana, dump it all.
Crypto Nana, exit liquidity.
Nana, dump it all.
Hardo Nana, dump it all. It's the circle of exit liquidity, and it moves us all through despair and hope, through faith and FOMO, till we find our place on the path unwinding in the circle of exit liquidity. Nana, dump it all.
There will be no real non-controlled currency in the world.
We're coming for you, Banks.
Listening to different podcasts, like in a whole different reality, which they think completely different things about Bitcoin.
They have got my money in their banking system. I should be able to access it, right?
Appler is live.
There's a good number of fucking, like, pretty smart Bcashers.
Hello and welcome back to the Bitcoin Cash podcast, following Bitcoin Cash On its rise to global reserve currency, this is episode number 164, Blaze Information and Exo blog featuring Jonathan Silverblood. Today is Sunday, the 19th of October, 2025. I'm your host, Jeremy. Jet is doing the producing. Shout out to Moneyless World, who is in the comment section on YouTube, arrived just in time to join the show live. With the price, BCH has not been doing the greatest. I forgot to update the title. That always happens. USD $469.80 per 100 megasats, down quite a bit. One BTC sat buys 229.6 BCH sats. We're down a little bit there. One ETH buys 836 megasats. We're also down quite a lot there. Selene 30-day users has risen though, 605 users, and the Tokenaut TVL is recovering to 10,210 BCH. Our guest today, Jonathan Silverblood, the General Protocols co-founder, BCH Blaze visionary, Bliss visionary as well, too, although I don't know that we're going to talk too much about that today. Welcome back to the show, Jonathan. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing fine. Nice to be here.
That's good. And how are you feeling about BCH in general? Aside from the things that you are focused on and working on, obviously there's a lot going on in the ecosystem at the moment. How are you feeling?
I will say that price dropping right in front of an event that depends on the price for its price pool is kind of not what I had hoped for. But no, overall, I think BCH is doing really great. All the upgrades are coming along just nicely, and they are very clearly being validated by external actors as well as being really valuable. We are moving ahead and cementing our leadership quite significantly. So from here on, I argue, like I've argued in the past, that what is needed now is actually building profitable and sustainable services that deliver value to real users. And we can do it. The technology is there now.
Yeah, one of the things I was thinking about as you said that is, obviously the price is a bit of a double-edged sword in that sense. If it drops, then our prize pool kind of shrinks by default. But if it goes up, then it increases by default. But of course, we're now in the era of cash tokens and stable coins. So we could have set it to be prize in MUSD, for instance, or we could have done it, obviously parity USD will be coming up as well, or we could have done it in USD and locked it in the BCH bull contracts. We have done that previously with the Bliss funding, I know, but I personally like it if it fits the BCH vibe a little bit, but
there's no need to make it complicated. Paying it out in BCH, even though the price is fluctuating, is just fine. And also, you can imagine that price on the day of delivery is important. But do you remember the StarCraft tournament?
Yes.
From far back in time, where they gave the first place got a lot of money, and I think it was the third to fifth place got 15 BCH each or something, BTC each or something.
Yes.
Now that's kind of if they held on to that, it's looking very, very different. And from my perspective, if you go to Blaze, you win the hackathon, you get some BCH. If you don't like the price it is, well, go build a product or service and make BCH more valuable. You now have incentive.
Yes, exactly. And then those things become a bit of a meme in hindsight. I've heard about that famous one. There's that screenshot of the StarCraft tournament where they handed out 25 Bitcoins. And I think they even they did it with the weird Bitcoin with the capital C. So you knew that it was many years ago and they still hadn't figured it out perfectly. Obviously, some guy who was involved, at the time it was $10 or $15 or something like that. But then that became a meme. I heard that they never actually paid out the Bitcoins, though. It was in true crypto fashion a scam. It was a rug.
Imagine getting in one of those spots and sitting here today and if only they had given me what they promised.
Yes.
That's nasty.
It is, although, you couldn't be too salty because on the other hand, it's I could have also just gone and bought some Bitcoins if I'd believed in them so much at that time. People always have a bit of a cope of if I had known about Bitcoin back then, I would have bought, 10 grand of it. No, you wouldn't, mate. Don't kid yourself.
And even if you did, you would have sold it along the way.
sold it or lost
opportunity
it.
one way, opportunity the other way.
Yeah, exactly. Forgot about it, got scared once, the price crashed and sold at the bottom. That's something interesting that I heard Mark Demisel say at one point, is that by definition, the most people are buying at the top. Like the most amount of buyers are meeting the least amount of sellers at the top, and vice versa for the other way around. And it's obviously it's also by money. It's not necessarily by the number of individual actual people involved in the marketplace, but it's a very interesting concept to think of that when the price is bottoming. That is literally the point that if you could visualize a room, tons of people are like stampeding onto one side of the room, and the people who are kind of like, nope, I'm walking back the other way, are the ones who are going to be making the good trade in the long run. And that kind of gets abstracted because we just look at it, the price going up or down, on a chart. But it really helps, I think, to think of those things in terms of human psychology, and visualizing it like that at least makes it a lot more obvious to me. I saw my friend message me today. He said, oh, I heard everyone's getting into gold, right? There's these big lines apparently in Australia as everybody goes to buy gold all of a sudden because they found out about inflation about, 10 years too late. And so now everybody's going to buy gold. Of course, gold is currently at all-time highs. What does that mean? It means that most people want to buy gold at the worst possible time.
Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily the worst possible. It's really hard to predict. It could be that gold like triples or 15 doubles from here, and then there's even more people getting in at that top.
Yes.
Yeah, it could be. I'll always go back to my perspective this, right? So you have these people who are acting on either sentiment or feelings or whatever, and then you have like builders standing outside with their laptops or tools and just making the thing valuable in the first place. And those are the people we should cherish and focus on.
Yes, of course, investors come and go. But the thing about building as well, having done the podcast and so forth, is you get such a different perspective on it as well. Like I'm, very confident in my sort of BCH stack because I can literally see every single day all the different things that are going on and that people are talking to me behind the scenes about, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, and I'm sure that applies to any industry. It doesn't matter what asset class you're in. I'm sure the guys who work at the gold bullion companies or whatever are kind of like, holy cow, our orders are going through the roof. And then they think, yep, thank God I have my gold stack, So there's a bit of emotional investment in, it's a bit of self-fulfilling prophecy, but at the same time, it is something I recommend to everyone, obviously, to invest in what you know. And in the case of BCH, if you're not that confident in it, but you think there's some potential, maybe try getting more involved, and then you'll be able to see, like, I'm not just guessing or taking Jeremy's word for it or something. I can really see all the stuff that's happening at the grassroots and kind of building up, right? Okay, all right. So let's talk about Blaze. So you and I have been working on Blaze in the background for a little while. We've done some promotion of it, or we sort of put the idea out there, but it's now really actually kind of underway. The hackathon itself does not start until November the 15th and runs for 8 days. But in the lead up, starting yesterday on Saturdays at 2 p.m. is the key time that everyone needs to remember. The streams are almost every week, Saturdays, 2 p.m. UTC, with the exception of one that is at 6 p.m. on November the 8th. But otherwise, it's Saturdays, 2 p.m. We started with an informational stream yesterday, which has been recorded. You can find it on the Bitcoin Cash podcast YouTube channel under the live tab. And we went through kind of all the information that people need to know to be part of Blaze, how to sign up, how to get involved, what's involved, how the streams work, the full schedule, how the prizes work, how the bounties work. Everything is all in there. It was about a little over an hour, I think. We took a couple questions as well. So if you're wanting to get involved in Blaze, that is the number one place that you can go and look to find out everything that's happening. We broke it all down in a lot of detail, but the summary is that it's a online hackathon which anyone can participate from anywhere. It's free to join, teams of 1 to 4. We're handing out 11 plus BCH in prizes, and we have already 3.5 or 4 BCH of bounties. On top of that, we're also having a public donation pool that people can put some money in. I saw somebody had sent in a little bit of sats already today, so that will probably accumulate over time as well too. And that's generally my summary. What would you add to that, Jonathan?
Nothing. It's a perfect summary.
So what was your plan then in starting Blaze? What are you hoping to get out of it? Like, in an ideal world, obviously we're now sort of starting to ramp up Blaze. By the time it's all finished and done in December, looking back on it, if things go perfectly to plan, what are you hoping to see?
Right. In an ideal world, right, my target goal, where I want to get it to, we'll have like something like 50 submissions that we can go and judge for and provide prizes for. And among those 50, I'm hoping that the vast majority of them are coming from non-BCH participants. I'm hoping that we'll do a good enough job to reach out to and engage with people in the EVM-related ecosystems and in the other proof-of-work-related ecosystems. I know I have tried to poke some people in the BTC space. I think are doing good in the thinking side, but are not managing to produce as much goods and services as they should. And hopefully, like in a really good situation, these kinds of people show up at Blaze and they try the tooling. They get their feet wet and they try building something on BCH. It's just a prototype. It's just a week of their life. It's nothing more. But with that in hand, they will then have validated their suspicions that BCH is actually a functional and well-working piece of machinery, and that they then later, the next year, show up at Bliss to start networking and to start finding their place in this community. That's kind of like what I really like to see. I would like to see people from Ethereum, from Solana, from Bitcoin, from Litecoin to come try at literally, like, the only cost is their time. And if it's no good, well, that's it. But I'm so confident that what we have right now is good, that a large percentage of those who actually do show up are probably going to follow through afterwards and come join us in BCH.
Yes, I actually agree with you. I think that people who, it's hard, like first hit is free, right? That's like the drug dealer's motto, but a lot of things in life are like that, right? It just means that if you have a good, high quality product, you're always going to be happy to let people sort of try before they buy, because that itself will be all the convincing. That's the ultimate proof in the pudding. And I think that's what we're trying to do with Blaze, also with Bliss, of course, but with Blaze is a great innovation or initiative in that sense, because I like that we have now expanded it to the whole world. You can do it from anywhere online, no problems with that. And even though we do have the streams at set times, of course, you can work on whatever schedule you want. All the streams are recorded, so you can do it entirely asynchronously. If you want to, it's actually possible to be part of Blaze and submit a project and hack during the hacking period and all of that without appearing on any of the live streams or doing. Obviously, I recommend that. It would be helpful if you are on the live streams. You can ask questions, and on the showcase stream, you can show off your project and so forth. But for teams that want to operate entirely asynchronously, they can do that. It's literally free to join. There's no entry fee or anything required, and there's upside in terms of not only the experience of learning about this tooling and all the resources and education we're providing around it, potentially prizes, potentially winning bounties, potentially getting interest from investors and sponsors. So this is a first experiment, and I'm sure we're not going to do everything perfectly in our first year of running it, right? That's going to be normal. But I think we're doing a pretty good job of making a fairly compelling offering to the market. Do you have any ideas of, in a sort of ideal world, again, other ways that we could maybe get it more in front of those people? Because we can put out the information, but by default our reach is a little bit limited, right? We are the BCH community, so we're mostly talking to people who are already in that community. How do we break out and get it in front of people in BTC, in ETH, in Solana?
So that is the hard part, right? Whenever you're a minority and you need to recruit people so they can grow, you're in a position where you don't have like big megaphones with good access and good reach. My way to try and do this is to directly tag people who are in those ecosystems that I know about. But my network is still also very small. So yeah, I don't actually know how to reach out. Yeah, you're probably better than me there, Jeremy.
Well, maybe, but it's also something I'm learning as we go along. Of course, this is our first time running it, so I think the focus here is actually just on running the event well, having everything go smoothly, and proving the proof of concept. But now that we're already running it, I'm already starting to see ways that we can potentially innovate and adapt for next year. For instance, it makes sense to me that now we have some of the branding, we have the concept, we have we can answer questions about it and so forth, like reaching out to people at physical conferences. Maybe over the next 12 months, we can try and show up at some more of these kind of crypto generic conferences and get in front of people in person. Might be one way to do it. And also online, we can maybe be a bit more aggressive about trying to chase around media outlets in the cryptocurrency space or in other cryptocurrencies and trying to get guest slots on their shows to promote a lot of this stuff. Now, part of the problem is that you kind of need a lot of repetition. And you and I were talking before the show, is that we've put out the information about Blaze, but we need to put it out there again and again and again and again for people to really click with it and think, okay, let me jump in and be a part of it. So that an early reach out to other people is maybe not initially going to move the needle, because they need to see something 3, 5, 20 times. But we've got to start that process, I think, now as the BCH community.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have potential for growth, right? So on a year-over-year basis, like the first year, people hear about us, and then the winners might be interesting enough that their project, so to speak, breaks through those barriers, that they attribute Blaze to it, and then more people know about Blaze. And then in the following years, if we do go to like generic conferences and whatnot, then having a brand name that is recognition, or what has recognition already, makes it easier to get over the hurdle, like getting people take the first step. I think this is actually a good point to point out. Like with Bliss, like with Bliss, it's important to know how you measure your goals. And so when you talked about that ideal outcome situation, I would say an ideal outcome for this year's Blaze is that at least one of the people who participate either get hired and therefore gain a permanent position in the BCH ecosystem, or get funded by an investor and therefore, again, gets a long-term position in the ecosystem. With Bliss, we kind of track like how many projects and people originate their ideas or collaborations back to having met and networked at Bliss. And so with Blaze, we can see how many of them went from I am not a part of the BCH ecosystem, like I'm BCH adjacent and I'm interested, to being, okay, I'm actually in this ecosystem now, I'm taking part and helping build it.
Yeah, and we're definitely making serious efforts in that regard. If you watch this informational stream, you'll see I did a slide where the concept is that we have in October and November, we have their mentoring and workshops to build people into Blaze. We have Blaze itself. People win some BCH, but the winners also get Bliss tickets. But it's not even just the winners. Any of the projects that come out from Blaze, which are showing potential, we are going to do the absolute best we can to give them a smooth pipeline into the BCH ecosystem. So we have a partnership and a sponsorship from BCH1, which is a sort of new but resurrected organization from the SLP Foundation that had some spare funding. They are coming back to BCH, which is another great sign, seeing people want to rejoin BCH who had maybe left, lost interest or had been put off by a lot of the infighting and problems. Anyway, they're coming back and they're going to bring some money for a program in January. So we're going to help people that come from Blaze to then be referred to them to receive potentially funding and to get linked up with investors and to also get advice on pitching those investors and building their prototype into an MVP. And then, of course, we will have Bliss in May so that then people can kind of do a 1.0 launch. Hopefully, if they have built a very, if they've done a good job of just continuing their prototype through to an MVP at a point where they will be right in front of enthusiastic, interested early users and also potentially investors to take it further. Or if not, at the very least, they will then be able to get the support to continue that for the next year. So we have a whole pipeline from Blaze in November, BCH1 in January, and then Bliss in May. And of course, by the time we get to that point, we'll be trying to extend the pipeline further, potentially through until Blaze the next year, right? So in my mind, we want to create as an ecosystem, the whole BCH ecosystem, we want to create, like a giant pipeline so that the ecosystem itself is incubating these projects like some kind of enormous, decentralized VC company. And you can see that other coins do that with things where they have, like in Ethereum, they have Gitcoin and whatever those other grant programs are. The Ethereum Foundation is doling out money to various people. In BTC, they have Brink and Spiral and all these companies that either run hackathons or give developer grants and that kind of stuff. BCH has been kind of a bit too small and also a bit too disorganized to have a competitor to that pipeline, which fosters grassroots projects and helps promising talent. Once you've attracted them, you've got to be able to keep them and get them some momentum. So I think that's kind of where we are as an ecosystem. That's part of my vision for Blaze. Is that the same for you?
Yeah, I mean, 5 years from now, we might be in a situation where we actually are a competitor in that space as well, because Blaze could do that job.
Exactly. Do you have any specific projects that you would like to see or that you're hoping to mostly see? Are you feeling like whatever people build is good, or do you have something that you particularly have in mind that you would be impressed by coming out of it?
So what I would particularly like to, what would be really interesting for me, is projects that exist on BTC and Litecoin that are built in, well, quite frankly, bad ways, right? In optimal ways, where if they just had access to the tooling that BCH has, they could do a so much better job. And just showcasing, like, these are the things that, if they exist in BTC and exist in Litecoin, right? That's maybe not a proven sustainable company, organization, or product, but it at least shows that there is sufficient demand for it to be relevant to be built. And then demonstrating using the BCH tooling that you can actually do it in a way that solves a real problem for that product or use case. That would be interesting to me.
Yeah, one of the things I thought was really interesting on the stream yesterday, we had a question about what about doing other programming languages? Like, so far, BCH has been a little bit focused on the JavaScript ecosystem, but I do know also, for instance, the Fifth of Gaming is doing in C++, but it would be awesome to see more tooling and infrastructure for things like Python or Rust or Go, all these other programming languages. In my mind, as we start to grow the scene, we will find people who are interested in those, maybe Ruby, interested in those different ecosystems, and you need the tooling before you can kind of get the apps out, which is a huge ask. It's a huge ask for the BCH community to produce enough funding and committed maintainers and so forth to have high quality tooling across a broad spectrum of programming languages. So it makes sense to me that we are starting with JavaScript, and kind of once you get some momentum going in one, then it grows the scene enough to build interest for other people. But I'm kind of wondering if we might see some initiatives in that sense. Blaze does not have to be people producing end consumer apps. I mean, even if it's tooling or infrastructure for other languages, or even if it was something that was targeted more at like companies inside the scene or security, maybe all those kind of things are on the table, right?
So yeah, I actually wanna point out here that while it's really, really good if you can make an MVP that actually works and does something, as long as you have some kind of contract definition that showcases the Layla features, and you have a description of what your use case is and what you expect it to be and things like that, you can actually do essentially no user-facing programming. You don't need any specific programming languages. You can sit down in a text file and comment out and write up your actual Cache VM code, like the Bitcoin Cache virtual machine code. Just make some comments and document why you're doing things in the way you're doing. And then you can have some other people in your team who make a like visual draft or a mock or something of a user interface and explains how the user flows would be working. You don't actually have to have an app. You have to have a use case that demonstrates the value of the next year's upgrade, right? So yeah, the programming language is completely optional. Though if you do make something that does work and it is cool, then that's massive plus points.
And we have, of course, our expert judges, Emergent Reasons, Callum Culiano and Josh Ellithorpe. You were the one who decided on those judges as being maybe good representatives of the BCH ecosystems and experts in the space. I'm wondering if you could give us some insight in how you decided that those three guys would be good choices, and maybe some hints for people as to what you think they might be looking for.
Right. So when we started working on Blaze and planned everything, I did not know that Dora hacks exist, and I did not know much about hackathons, like other than the generic sense that there's a place where you hack stuff and build something and then you get rewarded. So I was thinking, like, if I have to do this myself, I want to have as simple and as manageable outcome as possible. And so instead of having complicated judging mechanics where we award a bunch of points, or where we have like a full list of criteria and we go have like a strict definition of how we do everything, I figured that like the easiest way to get to where I wanted to go was to have people who are deeply vested in the ecosystem, people who are actual experts and who have a wide variation in what they value, and then just let them say like an ordering, like we prefer the project in this specific way, and then I'll just take all those orderings and I come out with the final result. And so I chose Kaylin, Emergent, and Josh because they have these properties. They have all three of them are very deeply vested and have been in the crypto ecosystem for a long time, and they have worked on all parts of all of the stacks to various degrees. And they also have different priorities in terms of where I want to go. So yeah, it ends up as a value judgment, but the value, like the judgment of these peoples, I value them very highly. So if they say it's in one way, then I take that very seriously.
Yes, one thing that I was thinking about as well is this year we have sort of it's like one category, obviously it's small and it's the first time we're doing it, so we're not trying to overextend ourselves. And to a certain extent, the bounties are kind of the separate category because you can do different projects in there according to the sponsors. But for this year, there's actually very limited sort of guidance in terms of what the judges are looking for that reason, right? There's no rubric of it has to be if the design looks slick, but the smart contracts are a bit shaky, or the smart contracts are excellent, but the business product market fit is maybe a bit questionable. There's so many aspects that go into a single project that the judges could be looking for any combination. And I think it's very important for people who are getting involved in Blaze to just have a let's try it and see attitude. We've done everything we can so that people are not feeling intimidated. Oh, I'm not an expert in BCH, or oh, I don't have leading ability in this or in that. That's not relevant, right? And everybody has some skills that they can bring to a project if they're enthusiastic and interested, and you can join a team as well to help fill out your skill set that you need. So I think that's really worth reinforcing to people.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, the requirement is you have to use the Layla upgrades. And so at some point there has to be a contract. But in order to actually win, you need to do something that is meaningful with it, right? You can't just make a loop for the sake of making a loop and like count the number up to 10 and then, yay, I'm happy. That's not a meaningful thing. As it turns out, most of the people I know that are capable of writing smart contracts, they are not the most business savvy people, things the overlap is hard to find in many of these sectors. And so if you are someone who knows how to build a smart contract or is interested in learning that part, then for you to be able to score well and actually come out as a winner of this, you will likely want a team with people who are not doing the things you are doing. And so I expect people who are like one-man teams to, well, if they really know what they're doing, right? If they are marketers and businessmen and programmers and crypto savvy people all in one, then of course they stand a really good chance, because then they have a very well aligned internal team. But for most part, if your team is really small, you're probably not going to do as well as people who have teams who are larger.
Yeah, 2 minds is better than 1. I think it's also worth pointing out that you do not need to do a fresh greenfields project. You can do that, and many people will do that, and that's encouraged. But we really, really wanted to make it so that people who are either working in a team already in BCH, they're already working as part of a BCH product in the ecosystem, or even if they're working in BTC or ETH or Solana or something, then they can still bring that to come and hack in Blaze, as long as they delineate, okay, this is what we kind of started with, and we're creating this new extension or integration or update or feature, whatever it is kind of the area that Blaze is going to be focused on, or that is our submission for Blaze. The idea being that, of course, it's asking people a lot to take 8 days out of their life, although we have given it 8 days, so you don't have to be in front of the laptop 24/7. It's not like a 24-hour sprint hackathon or a 48-hour sprint hackathon. It does operate over a week, so you can fit it into your existing schedule. But nevertheless, we do want it to be the case that existing teams can bring their project, and maybe if they're just savvy about whatever is on their roadmap or their product development pipeline, they can pick something, maybe something a little bit unique that they wanted to do anyway, and fit that around Blaze to also be part of it, and potentially also get extra exposure and maybe win a prize, right? So I think it's really important, and I'm really hoping to see a lot of the existing BCH teams want to be a big part of this as well too, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And anyone can participate except the judges. I think that's also worth saying. So we're going to have our workshop mentors. They can also be a part of it. I'm considering whether or not I could be a part of it. Obviously, I will be busy as well, running things in Blaze. But on top of that, I might also see if I can join a team or form a team. Jet, how are you feeling, man? Do you want to be on a team?
I will not be on a team. I'll probably be around, and if anyone has questions, I can do some mentorship along the way. But not only did I select all 3 judges, but I'm also very committed to a lot of other things, and so I don't really have the
bandwidth,
the headspace to be able to do another big thing at the moment.
Yes. Yes, but in any case, I'm feeling good about that because I started getting some FOMO when I was helping people. I was answering questions and stuff. I've got a couple of the bounties that I've actually got out. The thing is, because I put out the bounties, I probably wouldn't do an idea that was one of the bounties I put out. I feel like that would be a bit unfair because I would obviously be biased towards my own solution. But I have so many ideas. I have plenty of spare ones. So yeah, maybe I'll also be in the mix. We'll see. If I've got everything prepared ahead of time, I'll do that. If not, maybe I won't. One of the other things I was quite interested to see as well is I'm seeing how cash tokens is really rising to the fore in the ecosystem, because it was 2.5 years ago that cash tokens was announced, and I remember, or was launched, the upgrade was, and I remember when we were on the live stream with all that, we were all very excited, but we were just kind of hoping and praying, I guess, for the proof of concept to actually be delivered. But I noticed in setting up Blaze that we are going to that we are accepting like cash tokens donations to the prize pool. So if somebody wants to send in MUSD or Furu or anything else, that will also be considered for the prize pool. Now on the BCH podcast as well, using cash tokens, and the community choice prize is going to be decided by the vote of a new cash token called Blaze Vote, which we are going to airdrop to Jessica and Velma holders. So if you came to Bliss or you have somehow acquired a Jessica or a Velma, we haven't done it yet, but keep an eye out for those Blaze Vote tokens, which we'll be releasing to probably sometime before the actual hackathon on the 15th. And then during the period of the hackathon, and especially at the showcase stream at the end, you will be able to look at all the projects and send your Blaze Vote tokens to whoever impresses you the most. We needed a way to sort of get a feel for the community. And of course, there's a lot of ways that can be gamed in different ways. So we felt like rewarding those Bliss attendees might be a cool element to it. And it does already filter for people who are serious about BCH and have been in the ecosystem a while and knows what's going on. So you're of course also welcome to sell or barter or trade your Blaze Vote tokens if you have them. Of course, you can list them on Cauldron or do whatever you want. So that's just another case of cash tokens. But I'm particularly excited to see what the community kind of votes for and whether that aligns with the judges.
Yeah. So I'm listening to you go through this. I'm listening to you go through it in the last stream too. And I hear the name there, Blaze Vote. And I wonder, is there a better name? And I don't know. Maybe everything's going to be Blaze Vote in the end. But how about this, Jeremy? What do you think about Ember?
Yes, Ember. I like that. Ember. I was also thinking Ignition or something. Yeah, something along the Blaze theme. But
yeah, because then you can ask whose fire do you want to start? And you need your Ember to turn on your fire. Yeah,
that's good.
Yes,
that's good. No, here you are. There you go. The marketing mind at work. Blaze Embers. Yes, I love it. Okay, well, maybe that's how we'll do it. Shout out to Kyle Ben in the chat, who I believe is our first ever super chatter, sending in $20. That's new for us, and saying, after losing 20 grand on Smart BCH, I'm basically scared of cash tokens. Frowny face. Well, you shouldn't be, of course. If you got burned with that, then I'm sorry to hear it. But this cash tokens, you can look into it, is a very different project to Smart BCH. It has been integrated in the layer 1 in BCH. There will be no problems with any kind of bridge like we had with Smart BCH, and the ecosystem has picked it up and supported it in a way that didn't happen even with Smart BCH, despite it being very popular at the time. So certainly there's a lot more resources on bitcoincashpodcast.com if you want to read up about that. But cash tokens is the version that has learned the lessons of the Smart BCH mistakes, I would say.
Yeah, so depending on how that 20 grand was lost, I would absolutely go and echo what Jeremy says. If it was locked because it got stuck there when the chain itself stopped working, then don't be afraid of Cash Token. Cash Token solves every problem that Smart BCH as a chain ever had. It's great. You really should be liking that. If you lost it by buying and selling tokens over and there, and the tokens themselves were less credulous, then yeah, I mean, Cash Token is going to have a lot of tokens because it's a free market field. Like anyone can do anything, and so not everything is going to be high quality. I'll say it like this. So I am one of the people who developed the Hop.Cash bridge, and we also got a bunch of money stuck on the Smart BCH side. But I personally have no fear or any issue at all with Cash Tokens. Cash Tokens are great. If anything, today I have more of a concern with Satoshis than I have with Cash Tokens. I kind of wish that, like, if we had been able to go back from the very start, I'd have Cash Token in the first release of Bitcoin, and I would not have Satoshis. And so all the tokens would have been on the exact same playing field. But yeah, that's not going to happen now because we kind of cemented the way things are.
Yes, although that said, we are going to see some interesting evolving in the scene over time, because I also feel like Cash Tokens are inevitably going to become more and more prominent. This is a little bit off topic, but it's one of the things you and I have discussed recently, which is that there's a possibility of having Cash Tokens sitting on the same UTXO as an amount of Satoshis, right? So part of the way things have been working so far is that people create new UTXOs where they put the Cash Tokens and then they only put a small amount of Satoshis just so that you can respend it in the future. But there's, of course, also it's still perfectly valid to put a number of Cash Tokens, or maybe even, multiple Cash Tokens with a large amount of Satoshis. So for instance, in Selene, if you have that, then it might just filter out, like, so let's say you had 1 BCH and 1,000 Furu on the same UTXO, then it would potentially leave that out of your balance, right? So wallet software and tooling is also going to slowly build up and be able to accommodate these more complicated use cases, which is only something that emerges over time. But I'm being impressed so far with the job that the ecosystem has been doing in that regard. But it will inevitably take time. It is still new.
Yeah, there is a technically correct way to handle it, where you say that anything that is spendable is spendable, but that is not going to always mean that it's correct from a privacy perspective or correct from a tax management perspective and so on. So it's a very nasty trade-off when they are shared on a UTXO and you have different requirements for the Satoshis than you have for the tokens. For example, maybe the token is really, really high value and you now want to spend the Satoshis, but if you move the token, that creates a taxable event, and now the taxman is going to hunt you because you moved and they consider it like a trade and a buy or whatever. Of course, that's more of a problem with the taxman's perspective than it is, but any problem in reality is still a problem in reality.
Yes, but we will be able to improve on all of these things. And of course, a lot of it will be able to be abstracted away from the UI and the user, and we'll be able to make it all just kind of work in the simplest, most convenient way. It is just going to take a little bit of time, but it is happening. And speaking of that, this is our second major topic of today, the XO stack. So I was very, very excited when 1 year ago we covered on this show in October 2024 the announcement of XO.Cash, which was a general protocols initiative to build some tooling and services, I guess, around the idea of native wallets, that is Bitcoin Cash wallets and tooling that would be better integrated, especially with Cash Tokens, but I guess with BCH as a whole, so that instead of just being at the level of sending, receiving, Cash Fusion for privacy, and then the sort of DeFi apps that we have seen so far, BCH would be able to go up another level to every kind of wallet being able to understand and interact with virtually any kind of contract in a more secure and also easier way for users throughout the BCH ecosystem. obviously with all the upgrades to the protocol, it creating so much power. Power, with great power comes great responsibility, right? So we not only need to make that power available to users, but we need to make it in a way that they are not going to accidentally hurt themselves, either by getting scammed in some way that they didn't realize, by sending their money off into the void, or by signing on to something that they didn't really understand, or that locks away their coins in a way. There's a lot of potential problems that come with having so much attractive new power. So ExoStack was going to be will be, I guess, the solution to some of that. Now, it's been 1 year later, and just recently we've seen a new Exo blog be released with some blog posts showing some details of what this is going to look like. As yet, no code has been released, I believe. But tell me from the inside, what's happening with exo.cash, and when can we expect to see something in production?
So there's a lot of questions you asked in those sentences. I'm just going to take a step back and kind of look at the first point, right? It's been a whole year, but in reality, it hasn't been a full year of active and focused development. So we've talked about Exo for a long time, but when we initially set out the idea, we needed to go through hiring and get people to help us build it. And we also knew that whatever wallet implements this, for that wallet to be adopted, it needs to support like the legacy ways of doing things. Otherwise, people just get an incompatible wallet that works with nothing. And so we have spent a lot of time building up a legacy wallet. And we have a legacy wallet now, which is kind of nice. But since it doesn't yet provide any of the core features that we are promising, there's no real need for us to kind of release that wallet and have people use it. We'll get to that part later. And I have personally been going through my second international move in 5 years. And I don't like doing international moves. I've been busy, and I've had issues to deal with during the spring. And I've also been working to make Bliss happen. And so all the way up until Bliss, I haven't personally sat down with the native wallet side of things. I've kind of listened into everything, and I've seen there's been progress, and I've shared some feedback, but I haven't dug in myself. But after Bliss, that's where my focus shifted. And I have gone through so many different use cases and written up example templates and tried to refine some kind of system that explains and answers all the questions I have, and try to, in my mind, make all of these things work. And what you are seeing now is us reaching a point where we are confident that the current iteration we have of things is going to be workable. It is going to deliver on the value that we have promised. So that's where we are today.
Okay, so would you have any sort of vague type, like I've actually, the blog posts were actually really good, especially the second one. I really enjoyed that, and there will be more coming in that series. But it being, me being an engineer, I'm kind of like, when can I code with it? It sounds like, obviously, yes, there is a lot to go on. And when you say like we have a brand new wallet, and even if it doesn't have the new native wallet functionality, I mean, I instinctively feel like, well, it could be some value to releasing it anyway, just because that will undoubtedly also have, small bugs. You'll get user feedback, and, nothing is ever really tested until it's in public. Even if it was just a new wallet similar to the ones we already have, I'm sure the BCH community would still enjoy seeing that and trying it out. Is there any possibility of any of this being released soon?
Yeah. So actually, I think what you're seeing there is that something that applies in general cases, right? There might be bugs and whatnot, but with this wallet, we are going to rip out the legacy parts entirely, and we are going to build up again on the templates so that we have a wallet that is native from the ground up on the inside. It will still be compatible in the end with the protocols and the toolings. You can still send and receive to other wallets. You can still scan QR codes and these things. You can still have addresses. But we will no longer, at that point, have the same internal code to create and manage keys and things like that. And so any bugs and issues that people might find with the current wallet we have might actually just detract us from the overall goal of building this native system. And so for us, it's important to know like what problem are you trying to solve and deliver on that problem instead. And so you ask like, when can I start building on this? I don't have an exact timeline to share. I'm hoping that it's going to be soon, TM, but I can't really say. What I can say is that when you read the article about making the fungible token request, like that second article, I hope you took away from it that it has a very clear understanding of how it is going to function on the inside. And we will be writing up and releasing more of that on a every other week or something like that basis, or maybe once a month. We already have a follow-up to this article that is about to go out as soon as I finish everything up, which is going to go into extreme detail on how the engine manages state and how it tracks data across time and how it ensures that the correct data is available at the correct points in time. Also showcases more of the actual pay-to-public keyhash template. And the plan after that article comes out is to take a deep dive into a similar template, but for AnyHedge instead, where we're going to go through the more complicated contract side of things. After that, it's most likely going to be something like a Guru template, or we might jump straight over to liquidity provision with Cauldron templates. We have most of all the things that we need to sorted out in the design side. Next up is explaining all of these things like in public, while also implementing it in a library that's shareable and like on NPM or similar.
Right. Okay. Very, very interesting. Because when you say that this is hopefully going to prompt a complete rewrite of your own internal tooling, but I imagine in the long run, also the rest of the tooling in the ecosystem, I'm thinking about it from the point of view of Selene. We are working away on improving, our UTXO management and integration with smart contracts and things that are happening in the ecosystem at the same time too. So would you expect that Selene, Cashanize, Paytaka, etc., would also benefit from this in the end? And I guess then it kind of cuts both ways. Obviously, for us, it would be ideal the earlier it's out, because then we'll start adapting faster. But on the other hand, somebody's got to sort of test it all out and find the bugs. And if it's you guys do that on your own product before giving us something slick that is easy for us to integrate, then that's also a win. So either way can work.
Yeah. So you really hit the hammer on the nail there. So it's not a matter of integrating. This is a completely different way of doing things. So imagine that you have like a house of cards, right? Every new layer of cards stands upon the layer below. And if we consider each of these to be like assumptions or design decisions, if you go into that and let's take one of those lower end assumptions or design decisions and just rip it out completely, the entire house of cards no longer works, it just falls apart. And EXO is similar. You know how I said earlier in this podcast that when it comes to cash tokens, I kind of wish that cash tokens and Satoshis were on the same playing field, but we can't do that now because that would essentially require throwing out everything that exists in BCH and starting from scratch and doing something else. The XO stack is doing that. The XO stack is starting from scratch, and it's changing and it's challenging all of those assumptions that the wallet ecosystem, at least on the BTC, LTC, and BCH side, has been on since 2009, right? So it's going to be compatible in a lot of ways, but it's not going to be a drop-in replacement for some specific functionality in your wallet. So you're going to have to make a choice. Like, there's going to be two ways in which wallet makers like Selene can approach this. One is you're going to look at this and you're going to say, you know what? This is a better solution to the problems we have today. And then you're just going to transition. And then you will be an XO compatible wallet using the XO native mechanics, and you will reap all the benefits of the XO, but you will lose your current code base to a large degree. You will lose a lot of the work you have done on fixing bugs and issues and things like that. Or you can run in dual mode. You can make your wallet have two internal wallets, one that is XO compatible and one that is a legacy wallet. And whatever funds you have, you can send between them. And each of these wallets operates in their own way. And so whenever a user scans something that is intended for an XO compatible wallet, you would just open up that half of your software stack and interact and work with it. And whenever the user does something that's on the legacy side, then you can use both sides.
Interesting. Yes. I mean, I do imagine, without having, the tools in front of me right now, I would imagine probably what we'll do is, we'll make some kind of conversion system or something where you can maybe just start with a Selene regular legacy wallet, let's say, and then maybe there's a button you can push, or there's a screen or a box you can tick or something to go into like XO mode, and then we'll build that out until we have one-to-one matched essentially our functionality from Selene, and then we would sort of sunset the legacy wallets, and at some point, once we were confident, we would put people by default into the XO wallets, and then we would also have a migration tool so that people who have their existing funds can jump over when they're ready and when it's more powerful and so forth. That's kind of how I see things going. I have no idea whether other wallets would do similar. But that makes sense to me.
That is a fine approach.
Right.
It's essentially the dual wallet, and whenever the user is ready, he sends all his money from one to the other and then deletes the old one.
Yes. And so what to give people who are listening, I mean, I have in my head some concept of what this would mean and entail, having read these blog posts and knowing about the XO stack, but can you give some more specific examples for the listeners of what kind of things this would open up that are not possible now or are too difficult to do?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So you know how when you have all these token and contract aware things, like you have some Moria MUSD, you have a loan, you have some Cauldron pools, you have some NH contract, you have some Guru contract, and you look in your wallet and you have nothing. You might have the MUSD tokens, but other than that, you have nothing. None of all these things are in your wallet. They are in bespoke apps elsewhere. And while they are controlled by the blockchain, if you want to know what is my net worth, how much value do I have, then you have to go to each of these places and you have to look at what value you have, what the value they say you have, put it all in a spreadsheet, and then work from your spreadsheet, because your wallet doesn't understand all of these contracts. Your wallet does not know how much of an NH contract is expected to pay out to you. It does not know how much money you have in your Cauldron pool. It does not know the parameters and details of your Moria loan. It does not know your bet information on the Guru side, and so on. So that is one thing that when you have XO and these templates and things are working, you will actually be able to go in your wallet and click like on assets and get a breakdown of how much of your value is tied up in which of your templates or which products or systems or use cases. And you're going to be able to track that over time. If your wallet, takes regular copies of the data, you're going to be able to show like a pie chart showing like how much is worth it. There are also some other things that you're going to be able to do. For example, right now, when you do coin control, right, when you're going to spend some money, your wallet is operating on assumptions. It is operating on the assumption that any coin you have locked in a pay-to-public key hash script that comes from your, say, BIP44 key set is intended for spending. And so whenever you want to spend, that's what you get. Now, imagine that you want to have two wallets. One that is this classical pay-to-public key hash, it's trivial and simple. And the other is a pay-to-public key hash with a 2-week delay on, right? You can't spend the money you get here until 2 weeks by default. Of course, if you have maybe 2 keys or you have some other condition, then you can spend it faster. But in generally, like, you can't spend it until after 2 weeks have passed. A normal wallet would have no way of knowing how to find and select those UTXOs and know which ones are valuable or which one are valid for actually spending. But with the XO templates, that information exists. And so the wallet can automatically spend, and it can spend from both of those wallets at the same time, both of those lock scripts at the same time. It can also solve some questions about like what things should you not spend. The templates can define information that tells the app or wallet that this thing is not intended to be selected in automatic coin control at all. For example, maybe you don't want to spend your Flipstarter pledge while it's being pledged. Maybe you want it to actually come through. And so your Flipstarter pledge today, that's just a pay-to-public key hash output in your wallet. And if you have a plugin that manages everything for you, like an Electron, then sure, it might be frozen and Electron might not spend it. But this is a bespoke and a custom solution for that specific use case. But with these templates, whoever writes a template, describes one of these use cases, gets to kind of let the wallet and app know what the expectations are for it. Of course, the wallet is always going to be in control. You're always going to be able to manually override any of those policy decisions and spend anyway, or freeze something that is intended for spending so that is no longer spendable, and so on.
Right. Okay. So what the vibe that I'm getting, if I can put it this way, is that we kind of had like Bitcoin 1.0, when it was released in 2009. And then, of course, you had everything, sending money around instantly, frictionlessly, peer-to-peer, blah, blah, blah. And the whole world, taking a long time to catch up. Okay, how does mining work, et cetera, like that, right? And then you had sort of Bitcoin 2.0, let's say, which as a result of all the innovation in Ethereum with tokens and DEXs and, more complicated smart contracts and so forth. And over the last few years, BCH has caught up to that, right, with Cash tokens, with Velma, we've got Layla coming up, right? That's all kind of helped us catch up to that sort of cryptocurrency 2.0 type of ecosystem. And we already have examples of that today, even if it's not the biggest in the industry. This, to me, is kind of going to be like Bitcoin 3.0, where the templates that are then being distributed among wallets will then be able to be like security verified. For instance, you'll be able to have far better solutions for backups. You'll be able to manage any giant array of different kinds of tokens and stuff in a way that actually makes sense to people and automatically provides them good accounting data, all that kind of thing. That's kind of where we're going, right?
It looks roughly like that. Of course, just setting a 2.0 and a 3.0, that's just numbers.
Yes.
But let me say it like this. So with the original Bitcoin, you had some assumptions, right? Every coin is an individual output, and your wallet manages coins, and you spend from coins in order to create new coins. And with Ethereum, they changed that model, and you now have accounts with balances. And accounts with balances are vastly more user-friendly concept, but Ethereum also introduced all of this power in terms of the feature set of their virtual machine. And suddenly people could do pretty interesting things with those contracts that hold balances. Unfortunately, one of the more popular things that have come to happen is draining those contracts with balances so that they no
Yes.
longer have balances.
Yes.
And that is a result of centralization. If you centralize value, you increase the incentive to attack that value. And if you have a single contract that anyone can look at, then not only are you telling people, here's all my money, you're also giving them a blueprint to all your security systems. And then you say, haha, you can't take my money. It's a pretty stupid design, if you ask me. But what we are doing now is that effectively we are transitioning to a point where you can no longer see how the funds are held, right? It's all gonna, if more or less, gonna be pay to public key, pay to script hash, right? So you just have a bunch of hashes on the chain, and so you can't look ahead of time. And while right now in BCH we have some bad incentives, specifically Wallet Connect, that causes wallet makers to create wallets that only uses a single key and therefore centralizes all the funds on a single address. With EXO, that goes away entirely. There is no need at all for that centralization. So you don't have all your funds in one place where people can see how big the pile is. And also you don't have that blueprint of how they are secured in a public place on the blockchain. You just have a hash of it. And so you get better security at rest for all those things. But much more importantly, a regular wallet today will give you a pay-to-public key as lock script. A good security-minded wallet today, like Electrum Cash or the BitPay wallet, might give you multi-sig, which is great. But frankly, these are pretty standardized, pretty small, basic stuff. They are more like building blocks rather than complete products. And so what you'll get with EXO is that you can actually build the kind of lock scripts that make sense for what you're trying to do. If you have a company structure where you have like some voting rights and you have some party who is responsible for the finances, and that party might need a signature from a third person or whatnot, you can encode those structures directly inside of a template. And you have a spending condition, like a lock script, that isn't just a standard pay-to-public key hash. It actually represents the reality of how you're working with things.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, like you say, the numbers 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, they're just arbitrary. But I'm just trying to give people a sense for the idea of the shift in mindset that this is going to bring within BCH, and then will spread to the rest of the cryptocurrency ecosystem. I think once they realize what we're doing here. Is there anything like this happening in any other ecosystem outside of BCH? I'm not aware of it, but you might be. Is there?
I have not seen anything even remotely like it, but I am also not an avid multi-coiner who runs from the latest thing to the next latest thing. So I don't actually know if there are something else like it. It's a pretty heavy task to build it. Again, like it's been over a year since we started talking, and we have done a lot of work on building and testing and trialing and doing research, and we don't have a product yet to show for it. So it's clearly not a simple problem, right?
Yes.
And the value that it provides. So say that you are a wallet maker, right? You make Selene, and what you want is probably more users, right? You want Selene to grow.
Yeah.
Now, to get more users, you can provide features, or you can make it stable so that people like recommend it. Like you can make the experience really nice. And if you look at the choice of things that you could do in order to expand your reach and get more users, there's bound to be a ton of things that you can do that are on the time frame of a week to 2 weeks. And those are going to meaningfully improve on your situation. And it has always been like that. All the wallets and all the ecosystems has these lists, right? And they don't have, like, if you tell them, like, hey, would you like to spend 2 years building this complicated thing that will give you a better result? They're just going to look at their like funding part and say, 2 years, maybe not for me. Someone else can build it first, please. And yeah, you need to take a really long-term perspective in order to uproot the original assumptions and focus on building something that is inherently better. And you are going to get a bunch of value for it. Now, why is GP doing this, right? Don't GP have a list of these things? And the answer is no, GP does not have that list, because GP needs to grow at a scale where those things do not provide that value. And to get there, we know that there are some things that we need to have. We need to have a liquidity pool that is decentralized, that anyone can join at any time and leave at any time, that is safe and non-custodial. And right now, we don't believe there exists a solution that can provide the non-custodial part of that. We even go as far as to say that the BCH bull is only semi-non-custodial, because when you're using the BCH bull and you fund a contract, there is a small time period where you send funds from your wallet to a QR code in the app, where the app itself has a key to that money so that it can do the contract funding according to the contract specification. But that is a custodial part, right? That is not your wallet being in control of those funds. That is the app being in control of those funds. And that app, you can make a copy of it. You can choose not to update it. You can do a lot of things to bring that app into the same kind of like, this is mine as your wallet is. But it's not a true non-custodial solution, because it requires you to trust one more party, the app provisioner. But with the native templates, with the XO stack, you actually get to the point where you can have an app, because apps can provide a better user experience. So you'll have an app, and the app will show you all the things you can do on the ball, and you choose what you want to do. And then you scan a QR code, but instead of the wallet just sending money blindly to another key that does all the heavy lifting, that QR code will encode the action you're about to take and the parameters that you have chosen. And because it lists and defines what templates it is using, your wallet will be able to, first of all, do a bunch of really good security checks, right? It can check, is this a template I already trust? Is this a template I have used before? When did I last use it? What do other people think of this template? It can do a bunch of security and reputation checks on the template side. But after that, it can take this action that you have requested and the template that it has on its own, and it can produce a human-readable representation of the action you're about to do. It can literally say, you are about to hedge $400 for 16 months. It can create that in a fully non-custodial, fully trustless way, which means that you are not saying yes to send money. You are saying yes to make an hedge contract, or yes to putting money in a cauldron pool, or yes to making a guru bet, or so on, to the actual action. And then it is your own wallet that creates the transactions and interacts with the blockchain, not the app.
Yes. Yes.
So you're not trusting the app in this context.
Yes. Yes. And I guess one thing that I'm just trying to get, across to the listeners, and hopefully also to myself to a certain degree, is the idea that, like you say, it's a big step to rebuild the wallets in this way. But once it is, given that we are expecting, right, hopefully optimistically, a huge growth in the BCH smart contract ecosystem, it's kind of like, once you get the template system working, once you have the foundations right, then everything will just plug into everything, right? So you just get universal, like for instance, in Selene, at the moment, we've got the Cauldron integration about to come up, and we had to work and make that cauldron integration. But then if we also want to do any hedge, we need to do that again. And then if we want to do BCH Gurus, we need to do it again. And then there's a new app that comes out of Blaze, we're going to need to do it again. Like you said, those 1 or 2 week projects for every different app. But once we have this template system, you get the template system right once, and then every app works with the template system, and the template system is in your wallet. So everything just works with everything, and integration times just drop through the floor, which will just massively explode the size of the economy and the utility of BCH wallets and BCH apps, right?
Yeah, I'm expecting a like 90% reduction in cost of building BCH apps once this is done.
Yes.
I have a couple questions if I can lob me the answer. So with this, like, if I have this XO wallet and I want to receive funds, and I go to whatever kind of receive tab there will be, would there be like would that also be something that's templated? And then if so, is the QR code that's representing that template, like, would the wallet then need 2 QR codes so that you could have the old school addresses for wallets that maybe don't support new templates? And then my other question is there any like spec about writing these templates yet? And is it like a JSON file? Would it be like a YAML config? Like, I'm kind of interested in writing templates. So,
all right. You're up to 3 questions. Let me see here.
Yeah.
The first question. What was the first question?
Would a wallet that uses this new templating system need 2 QR codes?
Yeah. There's 2 ways. You can either follow the native templating approach, in which you have an invitation and you sort out that action like you would sort out any other generic action in the system, or the wallet would make a request, get that invitation, and then it would take the address from the invitation and just show you the address. So it's going to come down to the wallet maker, what preferences it would have. Just like you have cash token aware addresses today, where you can kind of swap between a Bitcoin Cash QR code and a Bitcoin Cash token QR code. I imagine that wallets, at least early on, would just default to a Bitcoin Cash QR code the way people expect it to, and then have a button where you can swap in order to do it the native way.
Okay, and
the second question.
Templating. I'm going to jump in and give partially the answer, I think, which is that if you read this blog post, they already have examples. If you read between the lines a little bit, it's not explicitly written about there, but if you take a look at that, especially that second blog post, there's certainly some details in there, but maybe Jonathan can elaborate.
Right. So the format of the templates that we are working with is going to be JSON objects, like a JSON file. And we will have a full schema that you can use to validate that your contract follows the syntax correctly. Now, this part is the thing that has been the most difficult to kind of get right, and also the thing that we are working still on for to a large degree. So I don't have a stable schema I can give you today. At the end of the next article, we will probably end by giving the full pay-to-public key hash template, so that you can produce the template file itself at your leisure. But yeah, it's generally, it's just a full declarative JSON object that tells you all the things that you can do, all the parties that can interact with it, all the transactions that it can generate, all the data that it can generate, all the inputs and output definitions that it requires, and also how ownership correlates to you or to the various roles involved in the schema. Yeah, it's the first time you're looking at it, you're probably gonna think, shit, this is complicated.
Yeah. Well, my next question was like, is the relationship of an action in time also something that's written in the template, or is that something that okay, that'll be fun.
The template explicitly follows the entire life cycle of the use cases. So if you take, for example, any hedge or BCH Guru, the template for them are going to include all the steps along the way, and it's going to have like any data that gets created gets stored in the engine and backed up through synchronization services, such that you can't intermingle data for various reasons. You can't get access to the keys; they are properly firewalled, and so on. But the first time you look at that pay-to-public key as template, it's going to be relatively big, right?
Yeah.
You're going to look at it and you're going to think, oh boy, this looks complicated. But if you take a step back and you ask yourself, like, what do my wallet do today? And then you try to break down what your wallet is doing, then we are actually doing the exact same thing. There is no magic here. The pay-to-public key has template includes directions, right? It includes description, directions, all the things you need to do all the things that a regular wallet takes for granted today. And it's just written out in a way that is generic, and that works with any contract setup. So yeah, send and receive might look overly complicated in this, but if you look at, for example, the NHedge libraries and those like tens of thousands of lines of code that is there, and then you look at about 1,200 line NHedge template, you can very, very clearly see that it's a massive reduction in complexity for the use cases that are problematic. But yeah.
Right,
also, I think you might also learn a lot about how your wallet actually functions by reading these templates.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
Yes. I guess, like you're saying, yeah, Jonathan, it's one of those cases where the simple cases get a little bit more complex, but the more complicated cases get way simpler. And that's obviously a good trade-off to make as we build up an increasingly complicated system.
It might be worth noting here that all that added complexity, right? It's not that it didn't exist before. We have just shifted who is responsible for it. Today, a user that uses a wallet goes through all of this complexity, but the wallet is responsible for it. What we have done is we have moved some of these things out from the wallets and apps and into the templates. And now the template authors are responsible for it. But the regular user actually doesn't need to know anything about the templates. They just need to know that, hey, do I want to do this? Yes or no?
Yes
do
or
I
no?
trust this? And get human descriptions for all the things they are doing.
Yes, yes. And of course, we'll have a whole system similar. Like now you mentioned before, cash tokens. At the moment, there's a bit of a system where obviously the more legitimate cash tokens are also more heavily promoted and more known, and they have the verified tick on Cauldron and stuff like that. So we'll have a system where people are not getting caught up into weird scam templates because the wallet makers, like it's Celine, like whatever, will know, here's the list of pre-vetted templates that are very solid and reputable, and then those will have sort of a green tick or something for the users to feel more confident in them. And then we'll have, maybe you can put in your own templates, but if you do, there'll be a big warning like, do you know what you're doing? You're about to throw away all your money, etc. And maybe there'll be some intermediate levels there of like, these are the sketchier new products or whatever, use with caution, all of that, right?
Or maybe you're someone who is not that super into like trying all the latest and greatest, and you really want a rock solid and stable wallet. And in that case, you pick an XO wallet that doesn't even let you add new templates.
Yeah.
Like getting more templates and support for more features is something that goes through the wallet devs. They authorize, they validate, and they provide additional templates into your wallet. So you can't go around and get scammed because you have no mechanic to choose to trust things you shouldn't be trusting. Yes. Or you could also have a wallet that functions the entirely opposite, right? It comes with 0 templates at all and no trust involved, and you just say, screw it, you're on your own, do whatever the fuck you want. And then you just take templates and automatically accept them, and all your money is moving around at blazing speed, but also at very high risk. So it's going to be a spectrum in between there.
Yes, we'll probably have a bit of both. Yeah, we'll have the sensible defaults, right?
Yeah, I expect there's going to be template repositories with reputation attached to them. And so, for example, if you go to the BCH Bowl with your brand new XO compatible, let's call it a Tempe wallet or something you just got, and you scan that QR code in the app because you want to do something, and the app might respond with, okay, so this is template I don't have, and then it goes to this template repository, and it checks, does this template by hash exist in this repository? All right, start downloading it, and then let's show the user that there is a template. It comes from this repository. It was written by these people, and the overall ratings from the user is like 4.7 stars out of 5. And you can choose like, trust this template once, don't trust it at all, trust the template authors and all the templates that those authors make and whatnot. And you can even have a, like my preferred way for a wallet to do this is that the first time you interact with a new wallet, it gives you the option of trust once, and that's it, right? You can still cancel and go away, but you can't trust forever on the first time, right? And then when you try to use it for the second time, the same thing. You say, you have used this before, last time was 4 weeks ago, and then you have that trust once button still, but now you also have the save for later, always trust this one. Yeah, that's kind of my preferred version of it.
Very interesting. So similar to the way that on your phone now you have, you know, apps that ask, do you want to use location services this time?
Yeah.
Always, never. That kind of a concept, but for your entire net worth.
Yeah. And because this is declarative, you actually can build the same kind of permission-oriented things. For example, if a template says that the lock scripts, like the coins you get through this template, should be available in automatic coin selection, you could still have, like, when you import that template, that is a toggle that you as a user chooses. Right? The template says this should be used for automatic spending. Do you want to allow this, yes or no? And if you say no, then the engine like, okay, no, it's not allowed to. So all the coins that comes in, let's flag them as not for automatic spending. You can get that kind of broken down permission system on your outputs.
Right. Okay. Brilliant. And just to finish off, I mean, one thing I kind of don't want to open all new can of worms here, but I'm just thinking about how we've got a lot going on in BCH, right? And to a certain extent, it's great that there's a lot going on and things are going in all these different directions. But we also really, to drive BCH adoption, we need to simplify this all down into like one box. You know, it all needs to be in an app like Selene or something else, where you not only have the spending and receiving of every BCH at all the different merchants and services around the world, you also need cash tokens. You also need all the different apps. We're going to have, you know, Cash Fusion. You've got RPA and different privacy tools coming up. You have Quantum Root potentially coming, quantum security, like, and then that's even before you're getting into whatever esoteric templates are coming up, right? So there's just like this entire world of stuff that all needs to collapse down into one single app. So this will be helpful in hopefully managing that complexity over time. But I'm also just a bit worried that, yeah, it's going to be something that over the next 2 to 3, 4, maybe 5 years, the BCH ecosystem has to work through to, like, the engine is already so powerful, but putting it in a Lamborghini is going to be the upcoming challenge, right?
Yeah, so right now, if you want to have a spending wallet, and you want to have a multi-sig wallet, and you want to have a quantum root wallet, and you want to have all of these various different types of contracts, you need bespoke implementations in your app for every single thing. And whenever you want to, you know, scan a QR code and just send some money, you know, the easy way, your app is going to have to do the magic. And if you have a quantum root enabled wallet with quantum root specific code, it can do that. And you don't see it. It just works. And if you have a pay-to-public key hash wallet basing on BIP44, then yeah, it just works under the hood and you don't see any of it. So the problem comes when you want to have more than one. When you want to have like one wallet for your spending, one for your savings, one for your tips, one for your this should be time locked, and one for your company and whatnot. When you have a lot of different wallets and it's time to do that simple spend, you just scan a QR code and you want to send some funds. Now, suddenly your wallet has a lot of decision making to do, right? Where do I get the funds from? Which coins do I choose? and so on. And that is not an easily solvable thing in a bespoke situation, right? Do I prioritize quantum root output, or do I prioritize pay-to-public key hash output? Should I be using my tips, or should I be spending from my family shared money? And so with templates, because each use case can flag each output, whether or not they are supposed to be spent or not, you can hide all this complexity, and it can just choose like in an automated fashion. But also because it provides all these flags and all these signaling and all this extra metadata about your output, your wallet can implement their own coin selection mechanics, right? If your wallet knows that this is a good way to do it, that involves maybe prioritizing one thing in front of the other, now it has all the information that is able to kind of make those decisions, where before it would have been much harder.
Yes, we've got a quick question in the chat. Moneyless World says, can wallets claim they implemented a template while in reality they did not? And I'm going to take a stab at that and say, yes, your wallet can lie to you, but if it did, that would create a huge scandal, and trust in that wallet maker would rapidly fall apart. Of course, with Selene and similar solutions, which are open source, we will even be able to prove to you with the source code that your wallet is not going to lie to you about those templates. But can somebody build a scam wallet that pretends a fake template? Yes, but the reputable wallets, the answer in practice will be no, because they'll be open source, there'll be checks and balances against that. Maybe there'll be a way to follow up with the external services to ensure.
So here's the beautiful part.
Right. Yeah.
You're partially wrong.
Okay.
If we're talking about a simple pay-to-public key hash thing, where all the data required to take action is sent in a single transfer to the other side, then if you send all the data and your wallet then lies and your wallet takes action that is not in the user's favor, you can indeed get to the situation where you have a bad wallet doing bad and stupid stuff, and it might be outright malicious. But if you have something like an hedge contract or some multi-signature setup or some other interactive setup that involves more than one party or more than one entity, then actually, if you send one of these generalized invitations to your wallet and your wallet says, hey, I have this template, and then you say yes in your wallet because you trust your wallet, and the wallet starts doing bad stuff, and then it sends this invitation back to one of the other participants, the template, the invitation that we're passing around actually contains blame information. And so we can tell that it did the wrong thing. It can tell that it tried to provide data for a party that is not its own role, for example. And we can see to a very strong degree that it's about to do something that's not correct. And we can just eject that party entirely from that invitation and either start the process over again or raise flags in various ways. So you actually get even more security than, if you're using this and you have a malicious wallet, you still earn better security.
Yes. Although, I guess, the point is that to the extent that if somebody gets a fake wallet, which is creating fake stuff, this does not solve that problem, right? I can make a fake wallet that pops up a screenshot of a legit looking template and says, this is it. And then behind the scenes, you press the button and it just drains all your money. Okay. That's not going away. There's no solution
for a single party interaction, software on your stack that you trust can still lie to you. So choose your trust wisely.
Yes.
But say, for example, you have 3 parties and one of them has been infected by some kind of malware, right? And now you're doing this thing together with each other. Maybe you either jointly want to fund something, or maybe you want to, say you have a team and you have some kind of fundraising situation like fundme.cash, but slightly more complex. And in order to take money out of the fundraiser, you have to be in agreement, like you and your teammates who created the fundraiser. Now, if you were using these XO templates and your teammate has malware installed that tries to do bad stuff, then you actually have, to some degree, the ability to detect and prevent problems in that flow.
Yes. That's amazing. Okay, speaking of flip starters, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to CashScript, who have launched their new flip starter for 220 BCH for another year of work on that tooling. Matthew and Roscoe, they do incredible work, and I highly recommend everybody to contribute. I have put in some BCH, which you'll see if you go on there. That's at flipstarter.cashscript.org. And mainnet Pat is also trying to raise 500 BCH for a variety of features, including cash tokens, cash fusion, which is quite interesting, and several other things, which you can find at fundme.cash/campaign/74. So like I talk about on this show, you've always got to keep putting money back into the infrastructure that makes everything we want to do work. FundMe also has hit over 1,000 BCH in total raised funds. So big shout out to Sayoshi Nakamario on that one. Okay, so speaking of as well, devs in the rest of the ecosystem, we had an interesting case this week of Dankrad Feist, who listeners may not be aware of, but he is a prominent Ethereum developer behind so-called dank sharding, one of their scaling solutions, has left the Ethereum Foundation after 7 years of work there to join Tempo, which is a centralized Ethereum competitor incubated by Stripe and Paradigm. Of course, the subtext is they basically paid him a fat stack of money to ditch ETH and instead go and play for the bad guys, essentially in the centralized competitor. Now, of course, this created a lot of turmoil in the ETH community as they started to debate sort of the morals and ethics of Dankrad doing that. Of course, he's a free guy. He can do whatever he wants, but it raises questions about how do you retain the loyalty of devs, even if they are quite ideologically aligned with your blockchain, in the face of centralized competitors that are essentially just able to buy them out. This reminds me of kind of sports teams. You know, you have that happen all the time where the superstar player is on one team and he loves that and he wants to win championships with them or whatever. But then, you know, big Mr. Moneybags from another club will pay him 10x to play against them. That kind of thing is happening in cryptocurrency.
I think that's a relatively easy thing to solve.
Okay.
Just make sure that everyone on this planet has their income in BCH and spend their money in BCH. Now, whoever wants to offer him more money to do something else, he's still going to have to want to be a part of regular society. And so he's still going to be aligned. Like he's work on something else, but he'll still be fairly aligned. He'll still be using BCH on a day-to-day basis.
Yes. Well, that's right. Simple. Just global adoption. Once we've just got global adoption, exactly. that'll be problem solved. I mean, I found this a particularly interesting case because the Ethereum community, you know, had mixed reactions about it. I don't know that anybody was really blaming Dankrad for making this particular choice, but there's certainly a spectrum of opinions. We can see here reactions from the community. One guy, AJ Warner, writes, Ethereum has had a significant culture shift in the last 6 months, with a mind shift set towards doing everything it can to win. I have seen some of Ethereum's old habits trickle in today. I absolutely do not understand how Dankrad is allowed to stay on as an advisor to the Ethereum Foundation and product roadmap work. I say this without knowing Dankrad, but having an immense amount of respect for him. He's going to be a competitor. That is fine, and it is his right. But Ethereum needs to recognize that he and Paradigm are undeniably spending a fortune of resources trying to build a competitor. And Ethereum needs to want to beat them, not invite them into continuing to design the future of Ethereum. It doesn't mean you can't find ways to collaborate with competitors, but there are lines that should not be crossed between collaborators and contributors. And then he also goes on to suggest a way of converting some ETH revenue into paying for devs, some sort of like allusion to an XEC style tax or Coinbase redistribution or some mechanism at the protocol level to try and retain talent that would otherwise leave to alternative ecosystems. It's just fascinating to see, you know, time is a flat circle. Like the Ethereum community, at least some of them, I don't know, this was a very popular suggestion, but it just kind of cuts to the fact that people always want to jump straight to, we need a pot of money to pay devs. What do you think of that, Jonathan?
Well, it seems to me like a concession of defeat, right? If he's leaving for a reason, and if it was like if it's just money, then he's still aligned, right? You can still have money and you can work on things, and competition is actually good for pretty much everyone involved. So no, I don't agree with this mindset that he can't be a advisor or whatever. If you think he's aligned and he's aligned, it's good. If you think he's aligned and is not aligned, then you're being deceived. And reality exists. Just adapt to it.
Emergent
If you're
Reasons.
suspicious, then take more precautions.
Emergent Reason says if ETH didn't have the fundamental problems it has, they wouldn't have been able to attract him away from ETH. They would have been building on ETH, which I don't know. I can see two sides to that. On one hand, it's true that when the party is going great, everyone wants to be there. So at a certain price, people's values or people's interest in being on the cutting edge of the industry is going to take precedence. And of course, I agree with Emergent that ETH has a lot of problems. But setting that aside, it is still inevitable that maybe the ETH Foundation is fun and cool and Dankrad's having a great time there, but these guys from Tempo are willing to pay him, 10x more money, and money talks, right? So at a certain scale, what is the value of your values, really, which is a decision for every individual, but it's something as a BCH ecosystem we will need to be aware of. As we become more popular, we will have more resources, but we will also have more sort of sharks swimming in the periphery trying to poach talent. So it's maybe something we can think about ahead of time, right?
Yeah, you kind of pointed to it, right thing. Like, so if you're successful, then of course people should build on you. But in reality, if you're successful, then you have demonstrated that something is valuable, and then of course competitors is gonna show up, right? Make the very first bread slicer, and now other people are gonna make bread slicers and compete for market share. It's no different in this context.
Yes, there's also an interesting post here from John Charbonneau, who is one of my favorite ETH commenters because he creates absolute chaos in their ecosystem, basically pointing out a lot of the copes and stuff that people like me do, but he does it from a position of credibility within that community. So they actually take his complaints seriously. Anyway, he wrote, quote, "In August, Tempo was massively bullish Ethereum. In September, Tempo was more positive than negative for Ethereum. In October, Tempo isn't good for Ethereum at all. It's just good for Tempo. Who could have seen this coming?" End quote. And then he has screenshots of Ryan Sean Adams, one of the Bankless hosts, going through his several months of cope from when Tempo was originally announced. I think we even mentioned it briefly on this show, and how they were like, no, it's great. They're building on the EVM. This is great for us. And now that it's come around to poaching their talent, they're upset about it, which was, of course, fairly predictable. And this guy, John, had predicted that, which is why he can call it out now, So I think that's also just something that we need to be aware of in BCH. When you see, like, it's very easy to frame things in a way that makes it feel like, yes, guys, we're winning, but it can be hard to see the truth that maybe the sting in the scorpion's tail is just yet to arrive. All right, that's it for Dankrad. We'll see how that works out. We also just have one other similar. A meme of the week here is Guat, who's a BTC guy, commenting on that, said, "This is like if Greta went to work for BP," which I think is a pretty good summary of it. Also, maybe just briefly, we can touch on, we had like sort of a similar thinking going on in the BTC ecosystem. We have a little video here of Bitcoin Mechanic and Tone Vase busy trying to get to the bottom of their ecosystem mess with the op return that we've covered before, but on their most recent stream, BCH getting a very small mention here that we can just listen to. Okay. No. Okay. All right. Can the listeners hear it? The listeners can't hear it at all. Okay. All right. Well, anyway, essentially, what he says is it's Tone Vays reflecting on the block size war, and he says one of the problems with BCH was that it was not credible. The devs that were on the BCH side, and he and I guess a lot of other people had a lot more trust in Bitcoin Core, which has now been somewhat broken. And then Mechanic says, well, you can't shit on the BCH guys too much because one of their devs did find the BTC inflation bug. And so, of course, they're reflecting on that was all sort of many years ago, but I thought it sort of tied into the theme of this episode where we're seeing Dankbrad switching away from ETH. We're seeing, BCH trying to onboard new devs through Blaze and push the industry forward with XO Stack. So I thought it was interesting to maybe consider for a moment, how do communities build trust in developers? The way you can do that is, on one hand, just by quantity. The more devs you have, the better, the more legitimate your ecosystem seems. Partly, you can do it with results. You can have your devs producing industry-leading, bug-free software, and over time, that the proof is in the pudding and it speaks for itself. That's where BCH has been getting a lot of its credibility recently, but that's hard to do and it takes time. And then the
or
third...
you can have price just go up. That's also the result, and the result that actually matters in this context.
Yes, well, that's true. Do you think that builds trust in their ecosystem? But do you think that reflects on the devs specifically?
That builds worship in the core developers.
Yes, exactly.
A lot of people earned a lot of money because of what Bitcoin Core did in the early days, and so there is no sensible reason at all to ever get in the way of those guys as long as money keeps getting more, numbers keep going up.
Yes.
And so number go up is the single most important metric for the entire BTC project.
Yes.
And as soon as that stops working, and eventually in my mind it will, then things like we're seeing here is going to happen. People are going to question the credibility of those developers, and then they're going to look at what's actually been happening, and that hero worship is going to fall through.
Well, maybe that's what we're already seeing, so that does give the obvious, what's it called? Follow on, the obvious implication that if BCH price goes up, suddenly everyone will think the BCH devs are geniuses, which I agree with. And I think that's probably what would happen. But it's on us to find a way to acquire devs and to build interest in BCH development and having very credible people in our ecosystem. Without that, right, we can't rely on that as our recruitment method.
I'd honestly issue a word of caution. If the price of BCH shoots up, and it might very well do in the coming half a year or something like that, do not automatically attribute all of that to super good devs. Devs aren't the ones building all of the things. The ecosystem is an ecosystem of participants. The stakeholders are far more diverse than the devs. There are a lot of people who aren't doing programming that are doing really good work in various places. And so, expect hero worship to be produced as a result of price going up, even on our end. And just keep that in mind.
Try and mitigate it. But it's something that I think I'm always very sensitive to, not sensitive in the sense of emotionally reactive, but I'm very aware of the criticisms that are leveled against BCH. I tweeted a couple of years ago, one way to deal with complaints is to address them all until they run out. And that's kind of where I think we need to be. So I can see that it is actually logical for people outside of BCH, whether they're no coiners or they're in BTC or they're in some other system, to feel like, oh, well, I don't know about BCH, simply because people at the end of the day trust other people. So if they don't have a good insight into the number or the quality or the reputation or anything of people within the BCH ecosystem, then they will find it hard to trust and invest in BCH the coin. So I was just thinking about ways that we could try and improve on that situation. I'm partly trying to help that with this show, for instance, episodes that we do like this, or with Jason Dreisner or with Callan, that kind of thing, I think helps to bring those people. But that has to be a two-way bridge. And I'm just putting the word out for BCH developers to maybe think seriously about to what extent it is maybe even a part of their job, or at least beneficial to their cause, to be a public figure. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be the number one face of BCH or anything like that, but at least being somewhat, visible and approachable and so forth in public can help to build confidence with people in BCH as an investment, because ultimately people know that the devs have got to do good work. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I do. Like the source of credibility matters a lot. And if you can get to a point where the underlying source of credibility comes from the sustainable applications and services and products in the space, rather than the ingenuity of Wonder Boys, then that is absolutely a better place to be in. I don't at all think that, like, you can have the better tech and still fail. You can have the better marketing and worse tech, you can still fail. Like, it doesn't matter whichever singular point of thing you are the world's absolute forefront at, as you can still fail. And so when number goes up, there are some people who are going to react to it. There are, like, people have already been in the ecosystem for a long time, and they are going to have a wide variety of things that they point to for their credibility. And then you have all the people who come in, and they are going to point to the newest, most shiny thing they can. And that credibility is not a good credibility. That credibility lends itself to hero worship much more than everything else. And I would much, much rather see that we get as many goods and services and products out there that can produce credibility on their own, than having price be the factor that does it for BCH.
Yeah, that's a good point. And to a certain extent, especially at scale, like you say, products speak for themselves. Nobody is really too worried about who is the guy coding Facebook. They just know that it's a huge site and it works and everyone uses it. Doesn't really matter. Maybe that's also something that if we can win by just producing products that speak for themselves, that will also help to ameliorate that gap to the developers.
Yeah, so this is one of the reasons why I refer to myself as a jack of all trades, like a person of many hats, and chooses hats depending on mood.
Yes.
I don't think that the stuff I do should be contributed to as like the single most important of any given thing. I do a lot of varying things to see what works. Not all of my ideas are great. Not all of my executions are flawless. Very few of them are, actually. So when I look at things, I think it's a good thing that I'm taking part in doing my side of Blaze, and that I'm doing Blaze, and that I'm building on Electrum Cash, and that I'm working at GP making both the Exo stack and the BCH Bull, and that I was there for Hop.cash. It's a lot of different projects. And if you look at them and you ask, like, which ones are more credible than others, then you can look at BCH Bull and the NHedge contract, and you can say it's no longer about me. And that is the key to success, right? It's no longer about me. The NHedge contract, the BCH Bull project, it lives and dies by its volume right now, right? It grows the way it grows. And it doesn't matter if I'm there anymore. So credibility from that comes from its trading volume, from the goods and service being out there. So I think that's what we should strive to get to the vast degree we can.
Yes. Okay. All right. Well, we're coming to the end of the show, and we always have message to the community. But just before we get to that, I'm wondering if you want to give any sort of final thoughts, either on Blaze or maybe on Bliss, for interested listeners might also be already starting to get excited about hearing more announcements or information about that. I've certainly had several people already come up to me and say, "Oh, I'm interested in, when can we get tickets and that kind of thing." Any word on any of that?
Yeah, so the single most valuable thing that you, the listener, can do for Bliss or Blaze or anything I'm involved with is, of course, using it, right? Be a user, be participating. But not everyone is going to do that. So the next most single valuable important thing to do is to help us overcome our probably largest hurdle, reach. Go out on a limb and tell the people you know about it. Try to bring it up in conversations when you are at meetups or with friends and family and whatnot, because right now we can tell people to some degree, but we need people to keep talking and to keep getting the message further and further out in order to reach the people who aren't in our ecosystem, the people who aren't in our reach. And it doesn't take much effort to do. You can write a single tweet, you can make a single post on Reddit, you can bring it up in one conversation. And of course, if you don't feel comfortable doing it, then of course you don't have to do anything. It's just saying, like, if you want to help out, this is one of the more important things to do.
Yes. Okay. Excellent. And do you have a message to the community, just in general, outside of those projects?
Yeah, everything's going really great. We are in a leading position. You should be proud of yourself. And if anyone ever talks about BCH in a way that isn't like strictly like reflecting that situation, then you know better. You don't need to like defend or fight them in a way, shape, or form. Just outbuild them.
Yes, and I think we're definitely seeing that the criticism of BCH has become vanishingly low from what I can see. People mostly are just trying to still pretend that we're not rapidly replacing all of their current ego investments, but that strategy will not be tenable too much longer, certainly not at the rate things are going. Okay, for our FundMe contributors, thank you to Manjamali Marcelo, Jeremy is made of whatever profits are made of, Molecular, the show we love, at Cash Stamps, keep building and broaching, Erdogan Talk, economics writer, Big Hair, love the show, love your hair, Milton Friedman, Purely Peer, purelypeer.cash, discover the thrill of quest hunting, find hidden cash drops and collect BCH, Ryan Giffen, keep it up, boys, DGN and FurQ, fresh hardcore BCH rap anthem coming at you, the Green Comeback Kids, get it at https://nwb.cash, Cash Dragon, Pump It Up, our donators and patrons, Ricky, Kyle, and HP, that I need to add to the slides, forgot about that, and our sponsors, General Protocols, check that out at bchbull.com. Start Guide FAQ and links are at bitcoincashpodcast.com, and if you're new to the show, listen to episode 85. I will also say people should go to bchblaze.cash and check out the link to Dora Hacks. We will have the first workshop on Saturday at 2 p.m. UTC. I believe it's the 25th of October with Mathieu. It's going to teach us all about BCH there. So tune in for that live stream and check out the replay from yesterday of the Blaze introductory information. Hope to see everyone getting involved in that. Final shout outs, Jonathan?
No, I just did my shout out, so we're all good.
Okay. All right. And Jet, anything you want to mention?
Yeah, so my shout out is to Simon. I've known Simon for probably like 3 or 4 years now. I just finally onboarded him onto BCH last night. It was his birthday. Gave him some coins as a little gift. So yeah, shout out to you.
Yeah, it's funny how the onboarding does get there, eventually. I also had a similar experience yesterday. Somebody I'd only just met, I hadn't known them a very long time, but they were asking about what I was doing, and I said, this stuff with app development and whatever. And to my surprise, they were more, usually I can, somehow leave that aside, if I don't feel like talking about it, but they were very persistent. They were, oh, no, tell me more about it. What's your app? Show me, etc. So I got them to download Selene and sent them $2 of BCH, and they were like, really like, wow, that, then they were asking more about it. How does it work? How were you able to do that? I didn't have to register, yada, yada, yada. So yeah, it's certainly cool to see that the barriers are slowly lowering in people's minds over time as cryptocurrency becomes obviously more and more normalized. And yeah, we're just going to hit a critical mass at which people will want to actually, it'll go from I'm a bit curious to masses and masses and masses of people actively seeking it out and wanting to use it. And that day is always getting closer. So looking forward to that. Okay, that'll do it. Thank you all for listening. Until next time.
Cryptonana, exit liquidity, hodl nana, dump it all. Cryptonana, exit liquidity, hodl nana, dump it all.
Cryptonana, exit liquidity,
dump it all.
hodl nana, dump it all. From the day we arrive on the blockchain and blinking step into the trade, there's more to lose than can ever be won, more to dump than can ever be saved. Influencers, tweets, and the noobs all follow, buying high, selling low, what a game. But the boomers know, and Sailor, he knows that the dump is coming. It's all the same. It's the circle of exit liquidity, and it moves us all through despair and hope, through faith and FOMO, till we find our place on the path unwinding in the circle of exit liquidity. Some of us fall by the wayside, and some of us soar to the stars. But the influencers always win with the Lambos and their cars. So beware of the pump and the inevitable dump, for the cycle continues and the news get wrecked. Cryptonana, exit liquidity, hodl nana, dump it all. Cryptonana, exit liquidity, hodl nana, dump it all. Cryptonana, exit liquidity, dump it all. hodl nana, dump it all. It's the circle of exit liquidity, and it moves us all through despair and hope, through faith and FOMO, till we find our place on the path unwinding in the circle of